Moana and Maui are back in this Disney Plus show turned movie, Moana 2. Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Zach, and I started this YouTube channel because I just cannot go to a movie without having to talk about it afterwards. If you find yourself the same way, you're in the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button. And while you're at it, comment down below what you thought of Moana 2, if you've seen it yet, or if you're planning on seeing it, and what did you think of the first Moana? For me personally, I love the first Moana. I saw that in theaters back in 2016. It was a surprise of the year. I wasn't really anticipating the first Moana when it was first coming out, and I just was delighted by the charm and also taken away by the culture and the atmosphere and the vibe of the entire movie. So when it came to Moana 2, of course I was excited for a sequel, but going into Moana 2, I also had the knowledge of the fact that during Bob Chapek's run of CEO at Disney, they were making Moana as a Disney Plus series. Once Bob Chapek got the boot, got kicked out of Disney, the CEO, Bob Iger, came back. He saw what they were doing with Moana as a TV series and said, "You're putting that on Disney Plus? That's going to be a movie. Put it in theaters this year." After receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania and into dangerous, long-lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced before. So going into what worked about Moana 2 for me, it's Moana herself. Auliʻi Cravalho, she has come back to the role, and just like herself, Moana has aged since the last time we saw her. She is now an experienced wayfinder. She is the leader of her people. They gave her real maturity to Moana while also keeping that bubbly, perky personality that she had in the first film, and Auliʻi Cravalho doesn't skip a beat stepping back into Moana's shoes. Also, you gotta give a shout out to the animators of this film. This movie looks absolutely stunning and beautiful. Doesn't quite reach the cinematic heights of beauty that the first film had, but the entire time that I was watching this on the big screen, I was quite in awe. They've also added a sweet little connection for Moana as they give her a little sister in this film, and I thought that the little relationship and little dynamic that was going on between those two was just sweet and endearing. And speaking of sweet and endearing, Maui and Moana, when they get back on screen together, the dynamic is still there, the synergy is still there. It's just nice. It's just warm and welcoming to be back in this world with these characters. Unfortunately, though, that's kind of where my positives are going to end for Moana 2 because I didn't like this movie all that much. And so let's go into why that is. Let's talk about what did not work for me about Moana 2. This movie doesn't have anything that I liked about the first Moana present here. With the first film, it felt like such a passion project by everyone behind the scenes, from the director to the writers to the cast themselves with The Rock and Auliʻi Cravalho. That movie is just drenched in culture, in community, in mythology, and everything, even down to the songs in the first film, just feel like there's nuance and sincerity there. In Moana 2, that sincerity and that nuance is completely void. When you're talking about the songs of Moana 2, they sound fine. Lin-Manuel Miranda did not return to do the songs of Moana 2, and it kind of shows. When you go to the first film, Lin-Manuel Miranda, his songs were ingrained into the DNA of that film, into that culture and community. It was all about introducing us even more into their values and belief systems. In Moana 2, the songs here, they're just kind of surface level. We're going on an adventure, so we're going to sing a song about how we're on an adventure. It's not that any of the songs here are bad. They're toe-tapping, they're a little bit of earworms, but there's nothing behind them. There's nothing that adds to the deeper meaning of the movie through these songs. They're just catchy and they just pass the time. And there's a real issue happening here for me with the story because, as mentioned before, this was supposed to be a Disney Plus show, and then they converted it. They quickly changed it into a movie, and the stakes of the movie, they feel like television stakes. There's nothing in this movie that really gives you that sense of urgency. Moana has to go out and find more of her people, or else her island's going to be in danger. That's kind of all the film lets you know about, but there's really no fleshing out of that idea. They're just on this quest to go find this island that will hopefully have more of her people there. And honestly, the hook there just wasn't urgent enough, and it wasn't investing enough for me to really care about this quest. And I say they because Moana is actually not with Maui for a long portion of this movie. Maui is kind of off on his own for the first like 2 acts of this movie, and then he kind of joins in with Moana in the 3rd act. And I feel like that was a really big mistake, because in his place, Moana has a new group of friends that she's going on this mission with, and they really don't do anything to flesh out these relationships, to grow and develop these characters. They're all just stereotype one-note characters. One of them is really into science, so she'll explain everything she sees scientifically. One of them is just a big fanboy of Maui, so he's just hoping to get to meet this guy sometime on the trip. And then the other guy is just this old man who doesn't even want to be there, but they brought him along anyways. There really doesn't feel like there's any reason why Moana picked these people in particular to go on her quest with her. They're just there, and they feel like they're just there for the entire movie. They almost feel like they're just glorified background extras in this movie. And strangely enough, even the dialogue of this movie did not feel like it was intended for the next big cinematic adventure of Moana. It does feel like dialogue that you would hear in like a direct-to-DVD or a special on Disney Plus, because 70% of the dialogue in this movie is just referencing back to the first film. Something they did in the first film. A joke they did in the first film. Just nudging and winking at the audience. Remember that? Remember when we did that in the first film? And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, I do. And I wish I was watching that film right now instead of this one. And honestly, all of this is really just to say that Moana 2 is a shell of what the first film was. It's lost all of its sincerity. It's lost all of its nuance, that tie and connection to the culture that they so well displayed in the first film and dove into and introduced you to. All of that is just null and void. Yeah, there's some fun, bigger action sequences in this. There's a lot more sea monsters they encounter. It's a more adventurous kind of film, but it also feels like a smaller scaled type movie in a lot of ways, and it's just not the magic that the first film had at all. It has been brought down to generic bones. Yes, kids are going to be entertained by it. It's got the colors are moving. There's a gag here or there that the kids in my auditorium were chuckling at. For me, it was just so redundant, and it just felt lazy. I walked out of this auditorium feeling completely disappointed in the fact that the Moana that I love so much feel like they got a slapped together sequel. They deserved so much more. If you have young kids, this is harmless to put on for them. They're going to enjoy it for the most part, I would say. But for me, I really was let down incredibly by this film, and I felt like it was a big slap in the face to the creatives and the passion that was there in the first film. I'm gonna give this a not recommend from me. I don't think it's worth your time, because it feels like they just put this out to make $1 billion, which this movie will make bank, but I don't think it's gonna make $1 billion anymore. Now that I've seen it, I don't think audiences are going to connect with it as much as they did as that excellent first film. But anyway, guys, those are all my thoughts and opinions on Moana 2. What did you guys think of Moana 2? Did you have a chance to check it out? Comment down below. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions. And if you like content like this, you can check out more content. I got more right over there. There's another one right down there. And you can just explore the channel. I'm sure you'll find something you'll like. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching and hearing me out. Don't just watch movies. Talk movies. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.